We will take a closer look at what figures to be one of the more contentious races this November, if not the most contentious race on the ballot, the race for Davenport mayor. These three candidates announced their intentions to run. However, as I talked to you, none have filed their official paperwork yet with the city of Davenport to qualify for the ballot. Incumbent Mayor Mike Mattson is seeking a third two-year term in office. Current Iowa State Representative Ken Croken and community organizer Jasmine Schneider announced their campaigns for the office. We will get to know Ken Croken a little better this morning. He's got a bachelor's degree from St. Joseph's University, a law degree from the New England College of Law. He's a lawyer who's held a variety of jobs over the years. Now, politically, he was a Scott County supervisor for one term from 2019 to January of this year and started his first term as an Iowa State representative at the beginning of this year. At the moment, it looks like only those three names will be on the ballot in November, all of them vying to be the leader of the third largest city in Iowa. Iowa State Representative, Davenport mayoral candidate Ken Croken is here to join us for a conversation this morning. Great to see you, sir.
Nice to see you. Thank you for having me.
Right out of the box, why do you want to be Davenport's mayor?
Well, I'm troubled by the direction the city is going in, and it's kind of a two-tiered conversation. I want to restore some good governance to the city of Davenport. That has a lot of very practical implications, but on the level of good governance, I think we need to restore accountability, communication, and transparency to government. And sadly, we've been missing that. So I think if we can address those issues, then the more practical issues will fall from that.
When you talk about good governance, are you specifically referring to the partial building collapse earlier this year in Davenport? Because you seem to be running on that as a campaign issue.
Well, not really, no. Certainly the collapse of the Davenport apartment building is the most horrific and clearest example of what comes from a lack of accountability, communication, and transparency. But it's more of the symptom than the problem. There are other issues at the Davenport city government that need to be addressed. And again, it all comes back to a failure of leadership and the need to restore principles of good government like inclusiveness and efficiency and those kinds of things which are I believe absent today and result in, well, hopefully not more than one, but horrors like the building collapse.
It seems like you're blaming the current mayor for this. This is why you're probably running against him. So what are you referring to in terms of improving transparency and efficiency? What are inefficient things that he's doing
and again, now? I'm not blaming the mayor for the collapse of the building. I'm blaming a system that failed to take action when the need for action was so shockingly apparent months before the eventual building collapse.
Well, how do you fix that, I guess, is the question.
Well, enforcement of current laws would be good, a good place to start. We, the city of Davenport, issued vacate orders against that building in the weeks leading up to the event, but never enforced them. Where's the follow-through? Where's the process that ensures that the things that need to happen are in fact happening? And again, if it is a people problem, if there is a person who's failing to do what needs doing, then yes, accountability would require you to address that. But if it's a system problem of dots not being connected and follow through not happening, then it's a different kind of a problem and requires a different solution.
Do you think it's a single member that was a problem in terms of accountability, or do you believe it's systemic? And if it's systemic, what changes do you think need to be made?
My suspicion is it's systemic. But again, we've been promised an investigation that we have not seen yet, so not all the facts are on the table. But the only facts we need to know are the fact that there are 3 individuals who died in a completely preventable accident, another person who lost a leg, and dozens of families who were rendered homeless and without any of their possessions, not to mention scared out of their minds.
Things happen during probably any administration, things that are bad that we don't want to happen. The collapse is one example, but we've seen violence, and certainly throughout the Quad Cities, and Davenport included, that I guess how can you guarantee as mayor nothing would go wrong under your watch?
Well, I can't guarantee that nothing will go wrong, but I can guarantee that I will never say to people, well, I didn't know. If I didn't know, I should have known. And I think that that's the kind of accountability that we need. Maybe one of the first things I would do would be to establish some kind of an accountability office that would audit processes and procedures to make sure that the dots are being connected, and that when the fire department writes in its department minutes that the Davenport apartment building is a, and I quote, death trap in February, we don't do nothing until the building falls down at the end of May. That's not right.
The city is making big investments in flood prevention strategies. What do you think about the approach there?
Well, again, proof is in the pudding. But you know, we had a terrible flood. You know, the buildings are coming down and the water keeps coming up, and the HESCO barrier tragedy of a couple of years ago again illustrates the point that perhaps people aren't focused in the right direction. You know, at that time, the city administrator said, well, it's not the responsibility of the city to protect downtown businesses. Yeah, it is the responsibility of the city to help protect the downtown businesses. And if the HESCO barriers aren't installed properly, then why have the HESCO barriers?
Well, they've changed them for this last year, because
yes,
2019 was the flood
but
that you're referring to.
But of course we didn't have the level of flooding last year that we did.
It was still a major flood, still hit major flood stage.
Yeah.
You mentioned downtown, because there's certainly a lot of attention and investment being directed towards downtown, and specific investment along the riverfront as well for the Main Street Landing project that we've been talking about in the city. What would you do differently along the riverfront and for downtown specifically?
Well, again, Jim, you know, I am not the mayor. I don't know what I don't know, but I do know that many people are saying to me, why would we invest a multi-million-dollar park in a floodplain without knowing that the water will not obviate our ability to access that, and combine that with the Canadian Pacific Railroad deal. I'm not sure that's the best location for a park. I hope to learn more. Maybe it is. But on the face of things, building a park in a floodplain that cannot be accessed because of the increased train traffic doesn't sound like the most efficient use of money. Again, a key element in good governance.
Let's move to qualifications. You've certainly been pretty busy in public service in recent years. You became a Scott County Supervisor in 2019. While in the final year of that term, you ran for state representative and won.
Right.
And now, after serving in only one legislative session, you're running for mayor. What do you say to people who think you're becoming more of a political opportunist, more interested in the job, or more interested in climbing the ladder rather than doing the job?
Well, 73-year-old political opportunists are not that common, Jim. I am retired at this point in my life. I have the ability to give back. I'm not in a financial position where I need the work. But I do think I have a particular set of skills and experience that would enable me to do the right thing without constantly looking over my shoulder at re-election. That, I think, is another systemic problem with Davenport city government. We're one of very few communities in the country that have 2-year terms for the city council and the mayor, and everyone is elected at the same time. So any work that was ongoing gets thrown out every 2 years. I'd like to see us take yet another look at a system that would create a 4-year term for a mayor and stagger the city council seats. I'll make the assurance right now that I will never run for the 4-year term if and when that gets done. So it's not a benefit to me, but it will be a benefit to the people of Davenport to have more continuity. When people are constantly running for office, it sets the stage for bad short-term decisions.
Davenport mayoral candidate Ken Croken, thanks for the conversation. Good luck with the campaign. Coming up, no to nuclear. Illinois' governor vetoes a bill with strong bipartisan support, but the chances are lawmakers override him. For the record,